Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is your favorite time. The time we all get to stand and sing proudly, and I'm going to invite my Newberians up because they have learned a fabulous song. They think it's new. Well, it's new to them. And as they gather, kind of gather, somewhat gather, there they are. We are very proud of our Newberians and our band. We have been 2 years confined to social distancing and masking, and you have no idea how hard it is to hear students sing in a mask. Yeah, it's hard. And we're just so excited. And then we are going to let them sing once through, and then we're just going to invite you all come up. And I guess, looking at the crowd, there's going to be quite a number of you up here. So, hit it, Anelli. All right, ladies and gentlemen, come up and show them how it's done. Come on up. You can join them. Robin, come up. Come on, Susanna. Come on, y'all. Just come on down. Come on down and join us. See, they don't know that this is a cheer song. My husband calls it a fight song, but I don't.
Esther?
Come on down. Look at all these lovely people who love to sing this song. All right. Well, we're nothing but inclusive. We're ready. Awesome. One more time. And we want to hear the audience this time. Over these people. Here we go. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Newberians.
All right, that was awesome. We look forward to that every single year, and obviously we haven't had it in the last couple of years. So I think every year we're going to try to get louder and louder and louder and get more and more people. We'll just send you guys the music ahead of time, so you'll come ready to go. But that was great. Thank you so much. Martha Johnson. How many of you knew Martha Johnson? Yeah, an amazing pioneer of NPAA. And you'll hear more about her later on, and we have a special presentation prepared, but I just wanted to announce that in honor of Martha Johnson, we're going to have a scholarship that will be given to a student at graduation. We already have a Bernard Johnson scholarship. We're going to add Martha to that, so we'll have our Martha and Bernard Johnson scholarship, and that will be an additional $500 that's already given for the Bernard Johnson Scholarship. So 2 students now are going to receive that at graduation this year. Yeah. This is something that the family is very passionate about, Christian education. As you know, this family has been a part of this school for a very, very long time. And so we look forward to honoring them as long as we possibly can.
So good morning. I get to come up here, unfortunately and fortunately, but humbly, and to give an award or scholarship to a couple of kids in honor of one of our former friends, classmates, and just an amazing person. That's Jeff Gaines. 10 years ago, this weekend, we lost him, and so it's an emotional time for his family and everybody that was there and part of that. But Jeff Gaines was an amazing person. He was outgoing, loved to be social, loved to be part of whatever was going on. And this scholarship that we have, his family has put out there for him, is going to 2 kids that kind of represent those same kind of ideals and the person that he was here at Newbury Park Academy. So 2 scholarships today in honor of Jeff, and they are going to go total of $1,000, and they are going to these 2 kids. The first one is Mia Irons. I'm not sure if Mia's here. That's an interesting one. If anyone was at the Passion Play last night, she actually played Satan, which was the opposite of what Jeff so that's first. Yes, okay, so anyways, move on to the next one. Boy, oh, thank you, Tracy, thank you. The next one is for Tim Morales. Well, Tim Morales, come on down. Tim Morales, come on down. I see you, Tim Morales. Hustle on down here, buddy. Just come on down. We'll wait for you. Don't take your time. I know you're in track and you can run. Okay. So for those of you that remember Jeff, yes, this is a very special time, and Evelyn and the boys were sad and unfortunate that they could not make it this weekend, but this is something we do every year. So when Tim comes down here, we'll honor him and Mia, and hopefully just keep that legacy, keep on going. Come on up, Tim.
Good morning again. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sheldon Paris, and I'm the principal. I've been a principal here for 4 years, been a part of this school for 11 years, and it's been such a wonderful experience. Alumni Weekend is so important to us. It's good to see you back here in person. Today we want to celebrate the wonderful work that God has done through all of the teachers and the people that dedicated their time to be with you guys, everything that you learned, everything that you experienced. We're just happy to be able to celebrate that today. Last couple of years have been pretty rough, hasn't it? Yeah, and I think we've all done our best to navigate through these unfamiliar circumstances, but today is the day that we get to reconnect with our classmates and reminisce on the good old days and the wonderful things that have happened here at this school. So thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting your friends and family. Thank you for those of you who are joining us online. There's still a lot of people who are joining us from far away, so we're happy to be able to have this program live through our Facebook channel. And if you'd like to go back and watch it again, it'll be recorded and there for you, so please do that. If you came straight to the chapel this morning and not to the ad building, please remember that we want to register you to make sure we have your information, to make sure that you are here. So please, right after this, when we have lunch, there's going to be a couple of staff members over there, and they will get you all registered and ready to go. NPAA is a special place for so many reasons. And what makes a difference here at this school is the people that we have here, whether it be the teachers, the students, the parents, the community. It truly is a family-like environment. And I love what my friend and colleague and co-worker said, Tracy Harder, where friends become family. I think that sums up NPAA, where friends become family. This year we have 22 faculty members. 5 of them graduated right here at NPAA. And they're doing a fantastic job for us. We're filled with so much pride, and we're so proud of this school. For so many years, it's provided a wonderful education to kids. There's been a lot of changes, but what remains the same is that this is a place where we try to put God first in everything that we do. And we find that when we do that, no matter the circumstances, He keeps us going. He does. We have 130 students this year, and that is 8 more than we budgeted, so we thank God for that. Certainly something that we were a little concerned about during the pandemic. There were a lot of schools that enrollment went way down. Some schools lost over 100 students. So we are blessed and we're thankful to be where we're at currently. Of that 130 students, we have 31 of them who are dorm students. We offer a 5- and 7-day program. We obviously don't have the big dorms here anymore. We created a unique experience, and we have kids from all over. The furthest is, I believe, Guam. So each year, we have kids who come from all over the world, and they still are able to have the dorm experience. So we're happy to be able to present that. I'm proud to say that the school has a well-rounded education. From the spiritual life, the mission trips, community service in our area, class vespers, week of prayer, many, many more things. Our focus is keeping Christ at the center of all that we do. The academic approach is very project-based. We are blessed with professional, hardworking, caring teachers. We have a wonderful staff here at NPAA that I have the pleasure of working with each day. We offer 8 different sports, I believe. 8 different sports. It could be 9, depending if we add something between years. And what I'm most proud of is that we continually win the Sportsmanship Award. We compete really hard, we play hard, but it's not all about winning and losing. Our kids are friendly with other schools. We go to so many different tournaments, and we host things here as well. And we have a lot of people who tell us your kids are among the best. They have great attitudes, and they work extremely hard. The environment is very nice. We have kids who come, and they're very apprehensive about trying for sports, and we encourage them to try, and we cheer them on, and they have a great, great experience. This year was a very important year for us because we had WASC, Western Association for Schools and Colleges. They are in charge of the accreditation, so it's a very important process that we go through. We had them visit this year back in October, and we had a self-study process where we looked at each area of our school and we presented that in a document. So we had a visiting team that came and spent 3 days with us, and they did an evaluation, and we were able to get a 6-year accreditation with a midterm visit. And the community members did mention that the document that we put together is one of the best that they've ever seen. Some of the visiting members have been in education for over 40 years. So it's a huge compliment to the staff and all the hard work, and also with the board being involved, the students, the parents, everyone was a part of this process. You will see the music department in full display today, all of the different groups. And this year we have a new teacher, Mr. Jason Coffey, and he has already made such a big difference in our music department. We're very, very blessed to have him. One of the things that's very unique to the school is that we offer a robotics program. We actually have a robotics team. And we not only have a robotics team, we have a very, very good robotics team. I'm talking about the 2021 national champions. Yeah. These young people spend so much time building robots that they just spend so much time and dedication, and they raise their own funds. They've been awarded thousands and thousands of dollars. They go out there and they find scholarships, and they're just getting ready to go now to Orlando for the end of this month to compete in the 2022 championship. So we're very, very proud to have that group on campus. It's good to see you guys all today. I cannot leave this stage without asking you for money. I'm sorry, I have to, okay? It's Alumni Weekend, all right? So let me be honest. We do the very best with the resources that we have. Actually, that was a comment that was made by one of the WAS visiting team members, is that you guys, you don't have a whole lot of resources coming in, but you squeeze every penny to make it the best experience, okay? There are a lot of things that you can give to. I'm sure a lot of you saw the projects that are presented there in the halls, but here is the main thing. If you can look into the possibility of being a part of the Circle of 100, I think that's gonna make a tremendous difference, because what that's gonna give us, if we have 100 members, that's gonna give us $100,000 a year, where we're able to make improvements here on campus. With the resources that we have coming in, it's enough to run the school, but it's not enough to improve the school. We have a very, very old campus. There are a lot of different areas where it needs work, it needs repair, it needs revamping. We've got work in the classrooms, we've got work in the dorms, we have work in the gym area. There are different projects they're listing. I don't want to go over every single one of them, but if you'd like to be involved with that, please let us know as soon as possible, and we can give you more information on that. That will help the school tremendously. So that's all I have to say. I could have gone way longer, but hey, I don't want to kill you today, okay? It's been a couple of years, and we just got back. And a couple more things. Please join us right after this. We have a wonderful meal provided for all of you in the cafeteria, all right? And that's right over there, right after this service. And then also we have an afternoon reflection and business meeting, and that's going to be in the library at 3 p.m. If you'd like to hear even more about our school and look at some more pictures, we'll have some refreshments there. We have some cinnamon rolls that were made by one of our faculty members, and we'll have that there for you this afternoon. Also, tonight, for our athletes and those who like to come and watch the athletes, we have a volleyball and basketball game, alumni versus NPAA current students, and we look forward to that. Volleyball game at 8 p.m. and basketball game at 9 p.m. Tomorrow, if you're still around, our junior class is hosting a car wash, and that's going to be up at Conejo parking lot, and that's going to be at 10 a.m. So come through before you head back and get your car wash and get to meet some of the students, and it's going to be a wonderful occasion. Thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot to us to see you here, and we just look forward to getting more acquainted with you. I look forward to meeting some of you that I haven't met yet just right after the service. So feel free to hang around, to hang out all day. You can look at the entire campus and ask as many questions as you would like. Thank you so much for coming. It's time for roll call. Let's see who's here. right, they are here. Okay. All right, so when your year is read, please stand. We would like to acknowledge you with a ribbon. All right, so let's start off. Honor class of 1952, please stand.
How many years is that?
70 years.
70.
Yeah. He's testing my math. 70 years, 70-year class, please stand.
Anybody from 52? Nobody.
Anybody before 52? I have to check.
Yeah. If you attended between 53 and 61, please stand up. There we go.
The honor class of 1962, please stand.
Amanda, turn around. Classes between 63 and 71, please stand up. There we go. See if we've got him up because I'm saying this.
The honor class of 1972, please stand.
That's 50. Fantastic. 73 to 81. 1973 to 81.
The honor class of 1982, please stand.
'83 to 91. 1983 to 91.
The honor class of 1992, please stand. Or 25th year, the class of 1997, please stand.
'93 to 2001. I'm 94, so is there anybody? Yes. Oh, good. Oh, thank you.
The honor class of 2002, please stand.
'03 to 2011. 2003 to 2011. It's in the balcony there. In the balcony. So yes, stand up, Melissa. Stand up. Don't be bashful. I don't know why you guys are so bashful. There's a lot of people in here that wish that they could stand up during that period. Yes.
The honor class of 2012, my first Bible class, please stand.
And the class is 2013 till present time. Nobody. Oh, none of the youngsters. They're probably still in college, huh? There we go, Robbie Bill. Yes, Owen up top there. Hey, Robbie. Woo!
former faculty members. Please stand.
Sam, sorry, Robbie's right behind you. Hand him a ribbon there in the blue shirt. Thank you.
Because of the pandemic, 2 years of alumni honor classes missed attending in-person alumni programs. We miss seeing you here and your classmates, so we would like to honor those classes as well.
50 and 51, if you'd stand up again, please. We just want to recognize you. 50, there was nobody from 50 and 51. I can remember that far. Here we go.
What about 60 and 61?
There we go. That's awesome. 1970 and 71. 70 and 71.
$1980 and 1981.
90 and 91. 90 and 91.
$2000 and 2001.
Yay, okay. 2010, 2011. 2010, 2011. And I was just reminded, we do have mugs. Please pick up a mug in the ad building for your year. So thank you for coming.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burden be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. to more than I can be. When I think I'm going under, part the waters, Lord. When I feel the waves around me calm the sea. When I cry for help, oh, hear me, Lord, and hold out your hand. Touch my life, still the raging storm in me. I need thee every hour, most gracious Lord. No tender voice like thine can peace afford. I need thee, oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee. I need thee every hour. Enjoy your pain. Come quickly and abide, or life is vain. I need thee, oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to When I think I'm going under, in prisoner's chains, with bleeding stripes, Paul and Silas prayed that night, and in their pain began to sing. Their chains were loosed, and they were free. I bless your name. I bless your name. I give you honor, give you praise. You are the
It's good. It'll stay. These tall people. Wow, that's going to go off, I think. There we go. We've lost pillars. We know that this world isn't our home. In January, I got an email from Stan Mulder's son-in-law, and he said, I just want to let you know that Stan passed away. Then, just before spring break, I got a call. Martha Johnson's passed away. And then, just as spring break was ending, my last day, I got a message on Facebook from Deanna Wynn, Hugh Wynn's daughter. Dad's passed. So, not to be a downer, but we do want to honor these three pillars that served Newberry well. And, you know, I've been writing the little eulogy thing that we're putting on the website for people to be able to read and to know a little bit about why we love these people so much. When I came to Newberry, I was the youngster. I was the kid. Most of the people had been here serving while the dorms were here, and they had been active on campus and doing, and I watched them, and I learned how to grow old and still teach. And so this morning, because I have not been able to make myself do it, I had to write it down because I've heard it said, the bad news comes in sets of 3. When I got the news last Sunday morning that my beloved friend Hugh Wynn passed away, I was heartbroken. Hugh awaits his maker and his king, one of his favorite hymns, to call him home. Newberry Park Adventist Academy has been blessed with music teachers. All of you have music teachers you've loved, not only who know their craft well, but they also have a gift of infusing the joy of music into their students, inspiring them to take the talent that God gives them and taking it to the highest level possible. We know this is true during Mr. Wynn's years at NPAA. Many of his students have gone on to sing professionally, and some recording artists. As an experienced teacher as well as administrator here, Hugh Wynn provided an example of all things professional. He dressed sharply, on point. He spoke confidently, and he taught using all the skills and experience from his amazing career in the Pacific and the North Pacific Union schools. He was certainly respected by his peers in the music field also. The programs that Hugh created with his students were definitely well attended. It was a treat to watch him work. He cared about every little detail, decorations, lighting, setup, and a mix that was amazing with his students. One program I recall was a patriotic mix of narration and music that engaged the audience also, and everyone left inspired and blessed. I was also privileged to go on one music tour to Washington, D.C. with Mr. Wynn, and a few extra tours off to Gettysburg and the General Conference. You know, they're all about the same, right? And on that trip, everyone had their job, packing, setting up for the next place. It was a well-oiled machine. I remember one breakfast, a student was complaining about the overripe bananas, and Mr. Wynn winked at me and then asked me what could be done for this terrible crisis this student was experiencing. And I suggested that the student take the banana and slice through the center seeds at an angle, improving the freshness of the taste. The student went off to find a plastic knife and try that method. He came back and said, "Didn't work." And I apologized and said, "Oh, it must be those East Coast bananas aren't the same." Mr. Wynn quickly stepped in and said, "Well, wink, wink, that maybe the knife needed to be metal. That would be what would be different." And so off the student went, finished the banana, still fussing, not any different in taste. It was one of my favorite humorous moments with Hugh. He loved to laugh. Hugh's organizational administrative skills were tremendous. He was so generous in sharing his methods, ideas, and plans with new teachers. What made him extraordinary was his willingness to get in and do the hard work, whether washing pots and pans after a dinner, arranging flower and centerpieces that perfectly complemented the colors, or doing the final cleanup after many people had left. His work ethic was inspirational to all of us who were mentored by him. Mr. Wynn's generosity and hospitality were epic, whether a lovely dinner in his home or a Saturday night competitive card game of flinch. Hugh was the perfect host. He loved being with people and bringing them the most comfort and enjoyment with anyone who engaged with him. I can't wait till we sit at that long table in our heavenly home. It's very likely Hugh will be there helping host the first dinner, smiling and laughing and saying, "Welcome home."
It's not too loud. Mr. Mulder's picture appeared at least once during that last presentation, and we'll be able to see a few more of him in a moment. Stanley J. Mulder, our Mr. Mulder, the man, Stan the man, longtime science and art teacher at NPA, passed away February 19, 2022. He died from complications related to a pre-existing condition after he fell. He was 90 years old. As it happens, on the day that he fell, he had scheduled a group hike. That was very much like him to organize a hike. The following Sabbath, Mr. Paris and I drove to Paso Robles, Templeton Hills SDA Church, for the memorial service where we represented NPA. By the way, there I had my first adult conversations with Susan, class of 82, Newberry, and Mark, class of 78. I was a Conejo kid, a faculty brat. So I knew all these older kids, but of course back then, never really conversed with them, and had a lovely conversation with his beautiful wife, Joy, Mr. Mulder's wife. And by the way, Susan and Mark would have liked to be here this weekend, but they are gearing up for Mark's daughter's wedding tomorrow in Northern California. They send their regards. I just want to share a few words about Mr. Mulder as we look at this video presentation. It's hard to listen and watch at the same time, but we have a big program. Among the things I learned about Mr. Mulder were Well, I learned a little bit of background as to why I still have this. Do you recognize this? This is my herbarium, and we were to collect wildflowers, I think 50 of them. Well, I collected 75. I enjoyed the process so much, and many of these I collected with John Cho. Our first entry was April 13, 1986. Collected everything just right behind here. And as I look through these, I find one that embarrasses me a little bit. You know what I'm talking about. Is Schultzia californica, a protected species. The California poppy. I don't know if he docked me for this indiscretion, but maybe he appreciated how I mounted it. I don't know. I have another binder, but I lost a number of these to mold and to general deterioration. It was a thrill to know him, and it was a thrill to be up there at his service. I think that's the final slide. By the way, this slideshow was at the memorial service put together by his son-in-law, Brett Robinson, who shared it with me. And it's so easy to include. It's very difficult to exclude information, but I'm going to try to keep these bits salient. Mr. Mulder, of course, was a lover as this herbarium. I don't even know when I bound this, but he was a lover of truth and beauty and goodness. I think one thing that makes me remember him most of all, and perhaps you can agree, although we all have our own memories of different teachers, is that he was a creator of memories. He went on backpacking trips. I never went on them. I worked on Sundays. He was sponsor of the hiking club, sponsor of yearbook. He taught me how to develop film in our darkroom. And John Cho, Philip Hurdle, and Frank Stiati and I would go around shooting everything we could find, and we would go develop the film for yearbook. I learned a few things about Mr. Mulder. He moved with his young family to NPA in 1971, and he was here for 27 years. But prior to his move here, he lived in North Carolina. He taught in a middle school, a church middle school in Fresno. That was where he cut his teeth on teaching. And he was in the Army. Uncle Sam asked him to join after he finished his biology degree. And they shipped him to Okinawa, where he was one of the men in charge of mosquito abatement on the island. It was intriguing. He was at such a pitch in his rank that he had his own driver. And his driver would drive him around the island, and he would do his studies on mosquito abatement. But all along, he would collect venomous snakes. Naturally, that's what you would do. And he brought them back live and kept them in his lab until his commanding officer found out and said no. Well, that was the way Mr. Mulder was. He loved nature. He was in charge of the bakery at La Sierra College. And a little bit before that, when he was 18 months old, he went missing on the farm in Colorado. And his grandmother went looking for him and found him face down in the horse water trough. He was just resuscitated. And that was the same horse trough that took his cousin's life not too much longer before that. Now, why his cousin died and he didn't in that same horse trough, we may never know until eternity begins. But these questions can't be answered. But those of you who knew him and worked with him and were his students are certainly happy that you were able to experience him as long as you did, and we are all the better for it. Thanks. We have an addendum. Did I forget about her?
When I was 9 years old. My dad was the oldest of the Johnson family, and Arthur, who was a dentist out of Loma Linda, was the youngest. He was married to Eunice Simley. Mm-hmm. The Simley family had adopted Dorothy and Joy back in their very young years. I won't go into the details, but we grew up with them. They were married. Art and Eunice were married in 1949. Eunice is living with her, my youngest cousin, in Redlands. But Joy had a great life just because she got adopted by the right people. And she was a wonderful lady. And her sister, unfortunately, I went to school with the PUC, but she passed off due to renal failure several years ago.
Well, thank you for adding that. I was able to speak with Joy, Mrs. Mulder, on the phone several times over the last couple weeks. As it happened, Joy worked. She was supervised by my wife's grandmother in Idaho, and my wife's grandmother used to call her Joy Bells. And I reminded Mrs. Mulder of that. She said, "I can't believe somebody remembered that." And so a lovely family. But again, it's so hard to know what to include and what to exclude. But thank you for the addendum. I'm glad you spoke up.
And in honor of Stan Mulder and his 27 years here at NPAA, the administration has agreed to rename the science room after Stan Mulder. Martha Johnson, an amazing individual. It's hard to put into words the warmth that you felt from her when you were around her. The amazing thing about that is that you didn't need to be talking to her necessarily. She just had a calming presence. When I was hired here back in 2009, she was at the tail end of her career. And I remember especially her diligent work with the international students. As an international student, you come here for the first time in your life. You are away from your family, from your friends, from everything that you've ever known. And you come over here, barely knowing the language, not knowing the culture, not knowing really anything. And it takes a special person who has a big heart, who has a heart of Jesus, to sit down with these kids day after day after day and work with them on not only their English skills, but their social skills as well. A lot of them are scared and apprehensive and feel uncomfortable because they're in a brand new environment. And back then, we had a lot more international students. There were a couple of years where we had over 40. And Martha was the person that was in charge of, she taught 2 classes back then, and this is 2009, 2010. She taught the ESL, and then we had an introductory Bible course. And she had the whole curriculum planned out, and the kids would meet her just after school in the library every single day. Martha taught here for 38 years. She taught everything, especially English. So she taught English for about 30 years and 8 years as an ESL teacher. Martha was here, the last time that she was here for alumni was back in 2019. And for those of you who are here, you remember that we honored her as a former faculty member. She was surprised. She was stunned when we gave her a bouquet of roses. And I remember having an hour-long conversation with her in the cafeteria afterwards. And she told me this. She said, if you need me to teach a couple of classes, just call me. She never wanted to stop teaching. In fact, 4 days after that, I got a letter in the mail from guess who? Martha Johnson. 2 pages long. First of all, she expressed her appreciation for the alumni program, for how the school was going. She loved the fact that we took our kids to India to serve over there for a couple of weeks. We highlighted that during the program. She loved to see the school going well. And I'm just going to read just a couple of paragraphs from this letter. She said, Sheldon, I loved every minute of my 30 years of teaching English here, then another 8 as a second language English teaching for foreign students. After I had been overseas for 4 years, I loved teaching those wonderful kids, whether they were in Ventura County, on the Oregon coast, or native kids from Alaska, or adults in Korea who wanted to speak proper English to visit the country, or Korean kids as well. Those kids were my everything. They were my heart. She then went on to say that may God bless and be with NPAA, and that God is always with us. He never leaves us when we work for him. Encouragement goes a long way when you're doing something for the first time. That was my first year as principal. And receiving this letter was everything. When you're doing something for the first time and you have these programs like Alumni Weekend, you get a little nervous because you want it to go well. And having the stamp of approval from Martha Johnson is all I needed. Then she wrote at the end of it, she said, so happy to see you take over my favorite school. There are always many challenges, but God is blessing us, and he is always protecting us from evil. You are now, Sheldon, on my prayer list. God is faithful and always available. Wow. Sending people letters is probably not something that we do very often anymore. I don't have many of these, but this one I will keep forever. What an amazing person, a person who loved God, who loved others, and served her entire life with all of her heart. She loved this place. And as much as she could come back, as much as she was physically able, she came and she was here. And she would even call on the phone and talk to us and see how the school is going. So God bless this family. And we are happy to have not only the Bernard Johnson Scholarship, but the Bernard and Martha Johnson Scholarship.
have one more quick slideshow that was prepared by one of our honor classes. Tim said, we've lost 8. And so we're going to take just a moment to remember the 8. And then we will move on with offering in our panel.
Packing up the dreams God planted in the fertile soil of you. Can't believe the hopes He's granted. Means a chapter in your life is through. But we'll keep you close as always. It won't even seem you've gone, 'cause our hearts in big and small ways will keep the love that keeps us strong. And friends are friends forever if the Lord's the Lord of them. And a friend will not say never, 'cause the welcome will not end. Though it's hard to let you go, in the Father's hands we know that our lifetime's not too long to live as friends. And friends are friends forever if the Lord's the Lord of them. And a friend will not say never, 'cause the welcome will not end. Though it's hard to let you go, in the Father's hands we know that our lifetime's not too long to live as friends.
Good morning. I guarantee you this program will end. And young kids, if it doesn't, class of 22 will be the newest MPA alumni. I know I'm up here to talk about the offering and to ask for money from all of you, but I want to remember a dear friend of mine, Mr. Wynn, first. And I would have remembered Mrs. Martha Stewart, but she had an eagle eye for noticing parent signatures were incorrect on notes to excuse students, so I'll pass on that. And I enjoyed going on backpacking trips with Mr. Mulder, but he was responsible for kicking me out of my sophomore year geometry class in tears, going home to my parents. But I did have fond memories of him. His daughter, Katie, was in our class, and we loved her, and we'll miss her and the Mulders dearly. But some 33 years ago, I met Mr. Wynn here at the academy. He was a brilliant teacher and administrator, exactly what Ms. Harder said about him. He walked into the band room, the choir room, and he naturally commanded and accepted and received respect from all of his students. He was down to earth, easy to approach. Anyone could talk to him about anything. He was loved by everyone, and it was easy to understand why. He was the most loved teacher on campus while we were here. He was a proven leader and a master organizer, and that's why the class of 1992 chose him to be our class sponsor. No one could do it like Mr. Wynn. He knew how to organize and plan, and we had full confidence that Mr. Wynn would find a way to make it happen with just the right flair. A couple of personal stories about Mr. Wynn that I probably never shared, and some you'll see why. But he probably shouldn't have let me into band when he did. For those of you who know me, I don't have much musical talent, and that's why I stayed seated while she invited us all up to sing the school song. But Mr. Wynn saw in me a young boy who wanted to try out in the band, and he graciously allowed me to have the bass drum responsibilities, but he was quick to tell me that it was limited to the bass drum. No cymbals, no bell or triangle. It was the bass drum. Well, I wanted to extend that, and I asked him, is there a chance that I might make the choir? But he didn't reply with a quick no. He sat me down and said, well, before you could get into the choir, you might need to take voice lessons. I never made it into the choir of Newberians. But I did get to know Mr. Wynn outside the academy. He lived in Camarillo Springs, and each summer he would ask me if I would watch his house for him, watch his dog, water his garden, take in the mail. Quite a bit of responsibility for a 17-year-old to have a house all to himself, but I was pretty excited. He had a nice little place and at a gated community, and I was excited to get down there and watch TV and stay up as late as I wanted to and not have the eye of my parents watching over me. And he had nice stuff. I mean, he had china and glass vases, a grand piano, but he also would tell me about where they were going. I was curious, and he said there's this company called Abercrombie & Kent. It's this tour company that Betty takes me on every year. We go on these trips around the world, and I thought, wow, that's incredible. And he also had a nice car. All the kids noticed he had this big white town car that he and Betty would drive around. It had a specialized, personalized plate with "You Win" on it, and we all remember him on campus because of that. Well, naturally, I was curious about how he accumulated his wealth or had all these nice possessions, and he sat me down, and he called over to the kitchen, Betty, come over. Mrs. Wynn will talk to you about this. And we sat down on his very ornate sofas, and she talked to me about drip funds, dividend reinvestment plans. And he said, this is how you do it, Brandon. You take your dividend profits and you reinvest them into the underlying stock and then grow your wealth. And I still remember that to this day. He gave me a flyer, he gave me a pamphlet of Kiplinger's, of the funds that he and Betty had invested in. He said, do this, and you will have the wealth that you need. I appreciate that. It was like Warren Buffett nowadays telling you the next company he planned to buy. But above any wealth or influence that Mr. Wynn could have, he loved Betty the most. And that was without a doubt. He always talked fondly of her, and not a sentence that could ever be interpreted as slanderous. Often at lunch, Mrs. Wynn would drive up Academy Drive in the town car and walk up the long pathway to the administration building with a lunch sack. And in that, she'd be bringing him lunch for the afternoon. And we'd often see them, and she and Mr. Wynn would share a small peck. And at that time, it was pretty yuck. But those memories now are quite fond. Mr. Wynn passed last weekend, and all of us here today who knew Mr. Wynn were touched by his kindness, generosity, care, and compassion. We all missed him and Mrs. Wynn dearly. He represented everything that was great about the academy. Would the deacons please come forward? Today's tithes and offerings are going to support the Newbury Park Adventist Academy Worthy Student Fund. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that we're able to gather today and remember these great legends at Newbury Park Adventist Academy. Thank you that we're all able to enjoy the company of each other and the memories that we shared and we created here in this school. We ask that as we collect up these tithes and offerings, that you help us decide to be investors in Adventist education, that we help this school prosper and thrive for decades to come. In your name we pray, amen.
So once again, if you came up and sang this morning, thank you very much. That really went well on zero rehearsal. Good job. Some of you, I imagine, haven't sung for a while. So very good job. Thank you so much. So for the offertory, you're going to get a smorgasbord of music. You're going to get some band, you're going to get some strings, and you're going to get some choir. So we hope you enjoy. We have like an offertory block. Thank you for singing this morning.
Mary, Mary, why are you a-crying? Mary, Mary, why do you weep? Mary, Mary, why are you crying? The Lord is risen, wipe your tears away.
We have, in the past few years, gone from having someone preach a sermon to someone who shares an experience that is a sermon in life. And today, I have two people that I've known for a good number of years, probably Mary longer than Jack, but we're going to have Jack come up here. I met him a few years ago, and at first I was trying to be the respectful employee, and that didn't go very far with Jack, and I think you'll appreciate what he has to say and remember. Jack?
Thank you, Tracy. I got a couple questions that I might ask. I don't know who wants to tighten these things, but don't need to tighten them that bad. So anyway, we're going to go that way. We are? We are. Maybe not. I had a preacher, believe it or not, up in Multnomah County, Oregon, and he was left-handed. So how many in the audience are left-handed? All right, now, this is gospel because he was a preacher. So preachers don't lie. And his statement was that all people are born left-handed and stay that way until they sin. I'm left-handed. I'm 79 years old. Not. I'm Jack Fisk, class of 61. That's a day or two ago. And so, man, these bright lights are something, especially shining on my bald head. If I'd have known that, I'd have waxed it. For those of you that were not here last night, you missed an extremely marvelous play. The kids were awesome. It was excellent. Would have been worth driving the 900 miles that I drove just to see them last night. And also about this, I'm the oddball out, always have been, always will be. I have a name tag with a lanyard on it. This stays by my bed every night. I take it off, put it on the nightstand. In the morning I wake up, put it on, and I turn it around and it says Jack Fisk. I do not have to worry about who I am. I now know. The guys I have coffee with, we trade them around so we know who we are. So that's why I wear it this way. Home. Are you there or are you getting ready to go there? I'd like to start off by reading a poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson called Crossing the Bar. Many explanations have been made by people as to why he wrote this. One is that he wrote it when he lost his best friend on a swimming accident. Another is he just wrote it. But for sure we know that he wanted this to be put in his book as the last poem, and when he died 3 years later, that's where it went. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me, and may there be no moaning of the bar when I set out to sea. For such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew me out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out of bourne of time and place, the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. I'd like to thank Tracy for inviting me to speak here today. A little nervous for being 108. I lied. I was really 108. And not having much speaking time. So if I get close to 3 o'clock, tell me. We used to have a clock back there in 71, but now we got a screen that doesn't work, but it has a red light. So I'm assuming that if that red light starts blinking, I got to hang it up. Always ask this question when I speak to some people. So if you'd raise your hand to one of the 3 questions, I'd appreciate it. How many of you heard me speak before? How many of you haven't? How many of you don't give a hoot one way or another? Got a couple honest ones out there. If you were in the class of 61, 62, 63, you did hear me speak. Because a group of us young men used to put on Sabbath program, and we did this around the area also to different churches. Thought I wanted to be a preacher. Didn't work out. I asked Tracy if I could speak about home, and this is my home. During my junior, senior year, including all summers, I worked my way through this school. I started my first venture here at school. When I was here, we had the boarding boys over the side there. We had to take out the showers. Got $20 a shower. Had 2 young men from South America. I paid them $5 an hour to take the showers out. Didn't have Sawzall back then. We had a hammer and a chisel. They were made out of steel. And that is one of the reasons I can't hear too well today. But made money. But I digress. So when I started here, and what led me on my life's journey was one, when my mother passed away when I was 15, and I moved from Oregon down to Torrance, California. Went to Linwood Academy, and about 99% of you people have no earthly idea about Linwood Academy. Taken over by eminent domain by our illustrious city of Linwood. They needed to build a new high school, and we had 20 acres in town. Went there my sophomore year. Hitchhiked, honest to goodness, 10 miles each way. Kind of like walking uphill in the snow both ways. That was Linwood. Don't know whether I'd want to do that now. But that started my life's journey. And so now we get to see who influenced my life the most and got me started on my life's journey. Mr. Ashbaugh was a Bible teacher at school at Linwood. One of his classes was called Bible Doctrines. And even in your freshman year, you were told about the horror stories. You did not want to take Bible Doctrines from Mr. Ashbaugh, because at the end of the class, to pass it, you had to give a Bible study from memory. And you're 18 years old. No. So I figured I'd do this one. If I was going to take his class, my Bible study was going to be on a real good text. And it was called Jesus Wept. Not much you can say about that one. It's pretty well cut and dried. You really don't go into it too much. But one of his traits was to put on the board every morning something that was inspirational. At least he thought it was. Some of them were, and some of them not so much. But one I have remembered from the day I was a sophomore. Things remembered that should have been forgotten cause more trouble than things forgotten that should have been remembered. Things remembered that should have been forgotten cause more problems than things forgotten that should have been remembered. True today. We put too much emphasis on the wrong things. Another thing that really changed my life was Camp Cedar Falls. And if we know where that is, and I hear tell it's still there, met a young lady up there. Gorgeous. Thought I was in love. Well, she went to Newberry Park Academy. I went to Linwood. And so she said, Jack, why don't you come up to MPA? And I'm thinking, well, this could lead to something. Okay. So up I come. Drop me like a hot potato. But you got to remember, she got me to come up here. And what would have happened had I not come? I like to thank Bonnie for that. Another one that had changed some of the things I do in my life. Used to walk down the sidewalk here, and I'd walk like this. And the guy come up to me and says, Jack, you looking for gold? I says, no. He said, what are you looking down there for? So I don't look down the ground anymore. I look straight ahead. And I'd like to thank you, Ralph Torres. So, you know, it's interesting little things that change your life. I worked my way through MPA from my time I got here as a junior. Started making brooms. Horrible experience. Boring, oh my Lord. I still look at those stupid things when I go to the grocery store to see if they're made right, and they're not. But after a while, I said, this ain't gonna cut it, so I went into maintenance. Had a long talk with Mr. Roth. and said, if I do not get to go work for maintenance man, Mr. Hilliard, I am leaving. It is that bad at the broom factory. But you make more money making brooms. I said, I can't make those things that fast. I said, I just soon put the time in. I worked 30 hours a week as a senior. 2 classes, that's all I took. Had them all, I had all my credits, except for 2 that were required. So I worked. Was told I was going to get kicked out of school if I didn't go to skip day, because I could work. So when I went to work with Mr. Hilliard, and he taught me an awful lot, I wired 5 of those houses that are back there. I plumbed them. I ran the gas line to them. Still standing today. So either they're good built houses or I did a fabulous job of wiring and plumbing. And then there was Mr. Roth, the principal. I was his pet. Truly I was. I could do no wrong. Well, proved that wrong a couple times. Won't go into that. Well, I'm going to tell you one story because I got to. It's awesome. Way back when I was here in this school, you did not go to shows. You didn't listen to the radio in the dorm either, but we had them. So since I was such a favor to Mr. Ross, him and his wife, when we had the breaks between whatever they were semesters, he said, Jack, I want you to watch my son for me. Okay. So somewhere along life's line, we got the brainstorm of, why don't we take Mr. Ross' station wagon, and I'll get the preacher's son, Elder Griffiths, and I'll take another student, Wilbur Helmer, and we'll go to the movies. And we did. I saw Sink the Bismarck and Enemy Below. Sink the Bismarck is a fantastic history movie. I don't care about the movie. It's a history movie. Enemy Below, yeah, it's a war movie, but, not history type of thing. So a couple days after we got done and Mr. Roth and Mrs. Roth got back, Wally got a change of heart. So I got to tell my father. I says, no, I'd rather you not. I'll go tell him. So I go tell him that went to the movie and that if I had the chance, I'd do it again because it was history. So going to the movies back in 60, 61, and probably before, was automatic expulsion. And I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. You were gone. Well, I wasn't really stupid back then. I wasn't dumb. I had the principal's son, had the preacher's son, and one other guy, and who are you going to kick out of school? Not. Wasn't pre-planned that way, but still planned that way. So our punishment, and it went all the way up to the school board. It just wasn't Mr. Roth making decisions because the rules were you were gone. And the board had a decision to make. Well, you can't kick out the principal's son, and you can't kick out the preacher's son. The other two we don't care about. You could kick them out, but got to be fair. So we had 3 days free labor. And I worked in maintenance for free for 3 days. Loved it. Wally worked at the chicken ranch. Didn't love it. Wilbur worked at the farm. He loved it. Doyle, he worked at the broom factory. Probably didn't like it, but that's 3 days you didn't get paid. So that was one of the better experiences. The other thing about Mr. Roth is he had a Jeep. And I have to tell you folks, nobody, and I mean nobody, drove that Jeep except Mr. Roth and young Mr. Fisk. I was the only one that drove that Jeep other than him. And it was any time I wanted that Jeep. I took HMS Richards up to the top of the hill. And that was an experience. So anyway, He bought me the first testimonies to the church, which I still have in my senior year. And these people are special to me, and I am home. I've enjoyed my 2 years here. I was a human guinea pig in the Army, white coats. It was top secret, and it was probably 30 years before they let the world know that we were there as the Adventists, all of us. And we found out later how many lives we did save by being injected with God only knows what. We found a cure for anthrax while I was there. Had a patient die from anthrax while I was back there in Fort Detrick. And of course, I must include my wife, Tony. The only disappointment to me that she gave was she died the day after our 50th. And that shaped my life. I'd like to tell you a couple stories. One was way back when, and I have no earthly idea where way back when was, but it was back there. But this wise king, he went to his men and he said, "Wise men, I want you to put the essence of the world in written form so all my subjects can read it, understand it." And so they did. They went back, and 5 years later they came back and says, "King, this is what we found." And he looked at it and he says, "It's great." He says, "But a whole library? No." He says, "These people aren't going to read all that. Go back and make it smaller." So they went back, come back with a set of books 8 feet tall. No, too much, not it. He said, "Still going back, make it smaller. Come back with a true meaning in life or else." And this put the fear of God in him. And then they came back with a book and then one sheet of paper. And finally, they came back with one sentence. The king looked at it for a long, long time. And he said, "Truly, this is the meaning of life." And do you know what the sentence was? There ain't no free lunch. And it's still true today. It's all it amounts to. Nothing is free. Things remembered that should have been forgotten. Here's another one that has affected my life. And I got to put on my helpers here because this thing doesn't print in Braille. So I've got to be able to read it. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, then you go to the mirror and you look at yourself and you see what that man has to say. For it isn't a man's father, mother, or wife whose judgment upon him must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in his life is the man staring back from the glass. He's the fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end. And if you pass most dangerous, difficult test, if you man in the glass is your friend, you can fool the whole world down pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass. But the final reward will be the heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. What does all this have to do with home? Well, those of us that went to boarding school, the experiences nobody really ever has unless you've been here. It is home, was home. I have one more thing that I think is important to read. We just dropped a battery. I don't know, that goes in there. Recharge me. Were we getting close to 3 o'clock? Now, lions and gazelles. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. He knows he must run faster than the fastest lion or he will be killed. Every morning the lion wakes up. He knows that he must outrun the slowest gazelle or he'll starve to death. It doesn't matter whether you're a lion or gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. I'd like to thank you for having me and put up with me for this period of time. So I leave with something as nice as you've been. I might wish you wealth, or I might wish you great wealth, or that good fortune may caress you, but your health could fail tomorrow. Your wealth could bring sorrow. So I will just say, God bless you.
Perhaps you've noticed that my feet tend to swing. My greatest fear is that I'll stand up and fall over, that my legs will be asleep. But Mary, come on up here. When we started looking at what we were going to have for our theme this year, finding home was very much a part of that. And many of you attended when there were dormitories. How many of you are sitting on the right side? Boys or girls side? Are you on the right side?
No.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah, you were on the right side. Yeah, it's something our students have no clue of. Are we on the right sidewalk? Did we go in the right door? All of those things are great memories.
Right.
Yeah, but the ones that we want to talk about today with you are a little bit about your dorm experience and the friends that made this home and have continued to make this home. Can you tell us a little bit about your class and what that means for the dorm that you lived in?
I do not have a book like this wonderful gentleman. And I was just asked a few days to do this. So this is all going to be just for me. Well, two of my longtime comrades came the same year that I did. 3. And they're sitting right back here. And you come into the school, and I hadn't even turned 13 yet. Another one of my friends hadn't either. So we were a little frightened, of course. But I had the consolation that my roommate was going to be my sister. I was allowed to have my sister be my roommate, so I didn't have to worry about getting to know somebody new. Love boarding school. Love boarding school. I was a pretty mad person the first year that I was here. Very mad. Because it seemed that everything was, you can't do this, you don't do this, you can't do this, and if you do, you're going to be in big trouble. And that made me a little bit mad because I didn't think it should be so limiting. I regret that I didn't hear more about the love of God. That's what this school's all about. And I did finally hear about the love of God the way that my ears needed to hear when I was a junior. And Camp Cedar Falls, you mentioned Camp Cedar Falls, was a place that we went for music camp and for Bible camp. And I never went to Bible camp that I can recall, but several of my friends did. In my junior year, my dear friend Tarina, who's no longer with us, came back a completely changed person. And it tremendously changed my life, especially when she witnessed to me that the God that we hear about at this institution loves you whether you're good or bad. I'm sure I heard it before, but it left a very lasting impression on me. I'm too emotional. Tim, you should be up here because I can drop at the hat a tear. Got it backwards. That's okay. You know what I mean. But just knowing that God loved me so much really broke my heart. And it broke it so badly that when I would open up the hymn book and start reading hymns that I sang all my life, I couldn't make it through the hymns. They were so meaningful. Those words were just so fabulous. And I'm really, really very, very happy that I met the Lord here because it helped me to understand that it's not the facts that you learn about. Those are important in classrooms. It's the walk that you have. It's taking the time every day to talk to your friend, and he so wants to be your friend. I have a brother-in-law, Lee Venden, and his mantra is, it's Jesus, 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 and it truly is. And when you take the time to read the Bible through, even if you don't read the Bible through all the way, what you begin to realize is that there's a pattern that Jesus wants to be a friend of yours, and yours, and yours, and yours. He's dying to be a friend of yours, no pun intended, but he longs to be our friend. He longs to hear from us in word, in prayer, and he longs for us to hear not only his written word, which is the truth, and the only truth in this world, really, but to see him in nature, to see him in friends, to hear him in music, to hear his whispers in the most unsuspected way. I call some of the blessings that I realize are from him God's kisses. because he's so tremendously interested and involved in our lives more than we know. And the more you get to know him, the more you realize that. Well, getting back to the academy, I'd like to mention just a few of the things living in the dorm. I was not here to learn. I was here to have fun. And so a game that we girls like to play, and I like to play it a lot, was called Truth or Dare. Do you know what that is? It's just exactly what it is. And you would say, okay, I'll tell the truth. Or, no, I don't want to tell the truth. Go ahead and give me a dare. Well, I don't remember some of those dares. Maybe you guys do. Can you help me out at all? But they were like, you have to wear the same dress the whole week long. I did that. It wasn't horrendous. But the truths were not too wonderful. They were too revealing most of the time, but it was a fun game. What I do remember is the way they tried to support us, which was kind of cool, is we had all different kinds of little clubs. We had the Teen Toppers, is that right? The Teen Toppers were the tall girls, and then the short girls were called the Shortstops. And those were two different types of clubs that we had in the girls' dormitory. We also had big sisters and little sisters, and somehow somebody would pick who was going to be the upperclassman picking a lowerclassman to go ahead and try to support them as they became more accustomed to being in the dorm and being at the academy and away from their parents. When you're a teenager, you really don't want to be around your parents that much, and when you're here at the dorm and living in the dorm and living in this situation, you do begin to miss them a little bit, at least I did. We had worship every morning. You were supposed to come to worship fully dressed, and so many of us learned to find a dress that we could throw over the top of our pajamas to go down to the worship in the morning. And sad to say, most of us kind of slept through worship in the morning, and I think it was the same in the boys' dorm. And worship every evening, and that's kind of sad for me to say, but anyway, it was mandated, you had to do it, so part of the school routine. We had a wonderful girls' club. We have one of the girls' club presidents sitting back here, Candace. Pamela. Anyway, I thought you did, both of you did. Anyway, and they did a wonderful job of going ahead and having an agenda for us to all pull together and work towards. And goals, I think it was probably my sophomore year. I went to school here 4 years. My sophomore year, Janny Templin, 2 years ahead of us, and we're the class of 72. So she was, I think, 69, in the class of 69 anyway. She had such a tremendous goal for us to totally remodel our dormitory, and that was a phenomenal thing. It seemed like every year it would have a goal that maybe next year we can put a pool in. Well, that was always mentioned and talked about and dreamt about, but we never got a pool. So it's have to suffice to go up to the same pool that's still here, right? Right, yeah, but we weren't allowed to go up there very often. It pretty much had to be at PE time. I'm sure that I'm probably over. Okay. All right, thank you so much for listening. It was wonderful to live in the dorm, and it kind of grew on you. By the time I was a senior, if you'd done a good job at obeying the rules and doing what you were supposed to, you got to live in the basement, and that was really wonderful.
So I want to thank, and I want to use Mary as an example. She sent her children here. That was lovely. I loved teaching them.
They each came 4 years.
Yep. And now, for our alumni, she's been so busy gathering people to come and talking about what they could do, and she has a whole weekend planned. I want to encourage all of you, whether you are here or online, hear this. This is a good example of what you can do to bring people back home. And we hope that you do that. Thank you so much. And one more part of her class. I'm going to invite 2 men to come up and help me a little bit here from this class. I understand that this class was quite the musical class. And You know, it's interesting. We all have memories. I remember that at different times there were different songs that became very meaningful to the school. And one of those, Praise the Lord, was the song Side by Side. Because that meant all of the boys on the boys' side and all the girls on the girls' side got a chance to stand up, and of course we always make a circle and we hold hands. And so all the boys are making a beeline for their girls, and all the girls are making a beeline for their boys, and they get to hold hands for a whole song. So I would like to invite you to stand up and join with us, and we are going to do a little song here. Yeah. Don't forget to take their hand. Side by side we stand, waiting God's command, worshiping the saving King, living by His grace and moving out to faith. Jesus Himself will see us through. Meet me in heaven, we'll join hands together. Meet me at the Savior's side. I'll meet you in heaven, we'll sing songs together. Brother and sister, I'll be there. Soldiers are we to go where Jesus leads, to fight the fight that we shall overcome. Heaven is our goal, to save every soul. Pray that we all will be there. Meet me in heaven, we'll join hands together. Meet me at the Savior's side. I'll meet you in heaven, we'll sing songs together. Brother and sister, I'll be there. Pray that we all will be there.
Please stay standing for the benediction. Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for another beautiful Sabbath day. Thank you for Newbury Park Adventist Academy, a place where so many of us found our home. Thank you for this Alumni Weekend, where we can come back and still feel that we're at home. And thank you for the promise of a forever home with you, where we can have the most wonderful reunion and Alumni Day. Please continue to bless this school, the staff, the teachers, and all the students that come through these walls. Please bless us as we go our separate ways. We may have gatherings this evening, later today. Please bless us as we get back to our daily lives. Help us to keep our eyes on you so we can be reunited and home with you one day. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, we have a postlude with the band, but you're also welcome to head on over to the cafeteria. They've got food just for you.
In your hurting, in your sorrow, I will ask my God to move. I speak the name, 'cause it's all that I can do. In desperation, I'll seek heaven and pray this for